When you think of definition of excellence in relation to a person, the first person that comes to mind is Coach Tony Dungy. It is my pleasure to introduce and present this gift to the first honoree of my tribute of excellence, Mr. Tony Dungy. I'm sure this is just a small token. I know you've received the Super Bowl trophy, but we just appreciate you being here. And it says Westbury Christian School honors Tony Dungy as the first recipient of the Charlie Ward Tribute of Excellence, August 28, 2010, Houston, Texas. Thanks.
Thank you, Charlie. I have gotten a lot of awards and a lot of trophies, including the Super Bowl trophy, but that one means as much because I really do know and value what Westbury Christian stands for and what they're all about. So I will take that with me and cherish it very much. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today and appreciate the hospitality. When I came in last night, Mr. Glenn picked me up and we're riding here and he said, "Have you ever been to Reliant before?" And I said, "As a matter of fact, I have. I've been there 7 times, actually." So many great memories out here and so many people that have been so special in my life. A couple of my former players are out in the audience. Audrey McMillan came by and Todd Scott, who were Pro Bowl players for me at Minnesota, guys that I played against, Aaron Glenn and Curtis Duncan, and just people that you have great memories with, and that's what it's really all about. People ask me all the time, do you miss coaching? And I don't miss the coaching, but you do miss those memories. And there's also, I guess, the people that the Lord puts in your life to keep you humble. I've made some bad decisions as a coach before, like kicking off to Devin Hester in the Super Bowl. That wasn't a real smart decision. But in 1990, I was with the Kansas City Chiefs, and I was coaching the defensive backs, and we're getting ready to play the Houston Oilers. So I came up with this bright idea to Coach Schottenheimer. I said, we should put our 2 great players on Hill and Givens and take them away and make them throw to Duncan and Jeffries. You know, the ball has to go farther when it's out wide, and Warren Moon likes to throw to Drew Hill and Givens, and I think that'd be a really good idea. Curtis Duncan and Haywood Jeffries had a field day that day. Warren Moon threw for so many, I don't think that record will ever be broken. The second person I think that is here that kind of brought a humbling experience to me. I was walking down the street and this guy comes up to me and he says, I know you. And I said, well, I don't know about that. And he said, that's it. I knew you. You used to be a coach, right? I said, yeah, I did. And you had some great teams, right? And I said, yeah, we had some pretty good teams. And kind of a funny last name, right? That's why you could say that. I knew it, Van Gundy. I said, well, that's a way for the Lord to keep you humble. But Jeff, stand up, Jeff. Now I want to see, do we look at all alike? Or I'm really here for one reason, because Charlie Ward is a good friend of mine. And he and the Westbury Christian staff are doing a great work. I got to know of Charlie in 1993. He was at Florida State, and they were actually competing for the national championship. And I didn't know Charlie at the time, but I knew Coach Bowden, his coach. And I always pulled for Coach Bowden because I thought he played the right way, he coached the right way, he won a lot, but he did it with class. He did it in a way that honored the Lord, and he did it in a way that didn't draw attention to himself. He kind of put that attention on his players, and I always appreciated that, so I pulled for them. And they won the national championship that year. Charlie won the Heisman Trophy, and I was an assistant coach at Minnesota, and I was really hoping that he would play football. He had a chance to play football or basketball, and I thought he was going to be the next Joe Montana. He had that type of spirit, that type of leadership. So I always kind of pulled for Charlie, but didn't really get to know him that well. And then in 1996, 3 years later, I was the head coach in Tampa, and we drafted a young man by the name of Warwick Dunn. And through Warwick, I got to know Charlie well because Coach Bowden, in one of those bad coaching decisions, he put Charlie and Warwick together as roommates. Charlie was a senior and Warwick was a freshman. And for those of you, a lot of you here know Charlie. Charlie is probably the second quietest person that I know. Warwick is the first. And I knew I had better get ready to go when Charlie was going to introduce me because it wasn't going to be a long introduction at all. Well, Warwick is worse. So I asked Warwick, I said, tell me about some of these conversations you guys had as roommates. I'm just not sure there would be many words. And he'd say, well, you know, Charlie would say, hey, what's up? And I'd say, I'm cool. And that would be a whole night of conversation in that dorm room. And through talking to Coach Bowden and then having some of his players, I got to really understand the impact that Coach Bowden had on those guys. And one of the things Coach Bowden told me that struck me, I've never forgot. He said, the first thing I do with my freshmen when they get on campus is I take them to my church. And that way I can tell their parents, they may not go to church, but they know where one is. And they're going to have to make the decision. But Coach Bowden had that type of fatherly impact on his players. He had it on his coaches. You start to see what impact a coach can have, not only on his players, but on his school and reaching out on his community and down the road. I've seen it in my own life, the impact of what coaches can have with my son. And I realized that coaches many times have more impact than dads. I thought I knew a little bit about football. I tried to tell my son some things. No way he's listening to me. For years, I talked to him about eating right and nutrition, and you got to get a good breakfast. If you want to be an athlete, you know, you can't eat Fruit Loops and just go out and practice. It's not going to work. Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. He goes to high school, and he comes back after the first practice. He said, Dad, you got to get some breakfast food in here. I can't go to practice on Fruit Loops. My coach says there's no way I'm going to make it if I do that. So now he's a freshman at University of Oregon. So Eric is telling me, I've got to be on time. I can't be late for the meetings. I said, Eric, ask Coach Frost where he got that from. So he asked Coach Frost, and Coach said, that's in your dad's book. So coaches can have a big, big impact. I benefited from playing for some great coaches. My high school coach was a guy by the name of Dave Driscoll, and he said this: talent is God-given, be thankful. Praise is man-given, be humble. Conceit is self-given, be careful. Dave Driscoll told me that 40 years ago, and I never forgot it. Every time I see him now, I thank him for being the kind of coach that could help me not only on the field, but off the field as well. And then 3 years later, I went to college, and I played for a guy by the name of Cal Stahl. He said, success is uncommon, therefore not to be enjoyed by the common man. He said, if we're going to win a championship, we can't just be average. We can't just float along. We can't do what everybody else on campus is doing. We've got to step it up, and we've got to dare to be different. And Christ said it a little different way. He said, enter by the narrow gate. Don't come through the broad gate, because wide is the gate, and broad is the gate, and wide is the road that leads to destruction, and everybody's traveling on that. But small is the gate and narrow is the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. And so I was encouraged by the coaches I had not to take the easy path, not to take the wide road, but to look for that narrow road. You know, there's two ways that you can be uncommon. So number one, you can have a talent that is so special and so off the charts, God's given it to you, that nobody else can do the things that you can do, and that can make you uncommon. Yao is here today. He's 7'8", I think. Most of us in the room aren't 7'8", so that's a little uncommon. That's a talent, a gift that God has given him that not many other people have. The second way to be uncommon is not to have the talent that no one else has, but have a desire or an attitude that you'll do the things that everybody else could do, but they won't. And people ask me all the time about Peyton Manning and what makes him special, and he's got some special gifts, but the thing that makes him is that drive, that determination to succeed and to go the extra mile. We drafted a receiver from Ohio State by the name of Anthony Gonzalez. And Anthony, because of Ohio State's schedule, he couldn't practice with us in the spring. Peyton Manning was in his 10th year at the time. He had been to 8 straight Pro Bowls. He had been the MVP of the league 3 times. But what he did that spring, twice a week, he would get in his car in the morning, drive from Indianapolis 3 hours to Columbus, Ohio. He'd throw balls for an hour and a half with Anthony and then drive back. 7.5 hours, twice a week. No one knew about it, but that's what he did to try to help that young man get ready. And that's what made him special, that desire to do the things that other people could do, but most people wouldn't. I was fortunate enough to go to the NFL and play for a guy by the name of Chuck Noll, the best coach that I've ever been around. And Coach Noll starts out, he said, the first thing I want to tell you, gentlemen, is you're in professional football. It's how you're going to make your living. But trust me, it's not your life. Well, he said, champions are champions not because they do extraordinary things. Champions do the ordinary things better than everyone else. 3 years later, I ended up working for him on his coaching staff. And he gave me another piece of advice. He said, whatever you do in this business, don't make decisions based on money about your career. Make decisions based on who you're going to work with, what you can learn from them, what you can add to the situation, and basically where the Lord wants you to be. One of the last things I took from Coach Noll before I left him, I was with him 10 years, he said something that, again, stuck with me for a long time. He said, stubbornness is a virtue if you're right. And don't let people change your mind. Don't let people tell you you've got to do things differently if you know in your heart what's the right thing to do. And that helped me out as much as anything. But as I was getting ready to go on the victory podium after Super Bowl 41, you have about 5 minutes where they're trying to get everything organized and bring the trophy out. I remember thinking, how did I get here? And what happened and how am I going up on this victory stand? And you start thinking of your high school coach, your college coach, your pro coaches, different people who have bought into your life and poured into it. And I really think that's why we're here today. People that are doing it the right way in athletics can have such a big impact. And this group of coaches and administrators, they're going to spend a lot of time with young people. And at Westbury, they're going to teach them a lot of these type of lessons, okay? They're not just going to teach them how to be good players and how to develop in their sport, but they're going to help them develop academically, they're going to help them develop socially, they're going to help them develop spiritually, and that's what we need. These are lessons that I don't think are being taught, that need to be taught if we're going to be the country that we want to continue to be. And I know those things are going to be taught at Westbury Christian. And really, in a nutshell, that's why I'm here, because I know what an impact that this Christian school can have on their students, and where are these students going to go? And 20 years from now, are they saying, you know what, I played for Charlie Ward in high school, and Coach Ward said, and they'll remember that 20, 30, 40 years from now, just like talent is God-given, be thankful. Praise is man-given, be humble. Conceit is self-given, be careful. Thank you very much.